The opening 2 rounds of the Full Send Sim Spec Miata Championship were packed full of the typical thrilling Mazda MX-5 racing at 2 very different circuits. But as drivers dive into the heart of the season, the action will continue to heat up, and experience and track knowledge will become even more important. For round 3 of the season, we head to Lexington, Ohio in the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, a track that this series has never raced on. So for those aiming to claw their way forward in the points, experience at this challenging and technical circuit may pay off in a big way. Welcome to round 3 of the 2024 Season 2 of the Full Send Sims Esports Spec Miata Series. Kyle Heyer joined today by Andrew Cardinale IV, filling in for Greg Creamer, who's out this week, but he'll be back in a couple weeks when we return to round 4. Andrew, welcome aboard. Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. This place is a classic American road course that comes with all the thrills and spills that we're accustomed to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle. It's always a pleasure to join in for these full send races. And Mid-Ohio is definitely, as you said, very technical, a very challenging course. It's really rewarding when you get it right, really punishing when you don't. There's a lot of places to, well, screw up, I think is the easiest way to put it. A lot of places to run wide, a lot of places where, especially if the track temp is high, it's decently high today, 103 degrees, as you see on the graphic. You can definitely struggle for grip even in one of these NC Miatas, so you got to be on your game here.
You certainly do, and it's cloudy skies here today. No threat of rain, fortunately, but over 100-degree track temp, if those clouds clear, it could absolutely be a pretty slick racetrack. This place is known for being slick, and I guess it's a great thing that it's not going to be raining today, because if you want to talk about treacherous, this is the place that you talk about in the wet weather here at Mid-Ohio, Andrew.
Yeah, this place... While I've never been here in the rain, thankfully, this place is definitely a bit sketchy in the rain. Going down into China Bend is scary, scary, scary place. Turn 4 is, not somewhere you want to have rain on the racetrack.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to ride around here in the rain, and let me tell you, you might as well be on slick tires in the snow. That's what it feels like. It is a treacherous racetrack. But with all that out of the way, qualifying is underway. We've got 2 20-minute races tonight. Of course, race 2 is set by the finishing order of race 1, so they kind of stagger that way. But it's all Morgan Burkhardt at the top of the order. 3 consecutive championships for him in the first 3 seasons of racing for this Full Send Sim Spec Miata series. Nicholas Rice-Budo took it last season, so he's kind of the incumbent. But Josh Soto missed the first round at VIR and right to the top here in qualifying. He's looking very strong in that CRP Mazda.
And he's always been good. Well, I'm a fill-in guy. I recall the last few broadcasts I've done with this series. Soto's always been in the conversation, of course, Burkhardt and some others that we see. No surprise to see Car 77 top of the board. Of course, you mentioned some big accolades he's received the last couple of months, years, whatever. Car 77, always one to watch when we tune in for these full send races. And I'm excited to see what he can do, potentially starting from pole today.
Yeah, we got about 36 thousandths over Morgan Burkhardt at the moment. And, of course, Morgan will be one to watch. And, of course, so will Beans Forster. I love watching his on board. He's got the foot cam there so he can watch the shifting. And Greg is always fascinated by watching the heel-toe downshifts. These cars, again, don't have the modern set of sequential that the ND generation Miatas have. So it's old-fashioned heel-toe, and that means the feet are busy here, entering the section like the carousel at the end of the lap.
Yeah, this is something I've never been able to get down. I cheat a little bit with a button on my wheel for the clutch, but it is so technical. Again, going back to the technical course, this car gets real technical, even though, I mean, it's a Miata, right? Everybody kind of thinks of it as this slow little dinky thing that you can just beat and bang in. It takes a lot of things going right to get around one of these racetracks as the fastest driver, and that heel-toe shifting is a big part of it, as Beans... Well, needs to get a lap down. I don't see him on the board yet.
Yeah, hasn't put one down yet, and not for lack of trying. He's on lap 3 now, which most of the field has been out since the beginning of qualifying, but we'll see if he can get one on the board. I feel his pain. Yeah. Got to get one in before the time runs out. Otherwise, you got to pass about 25 other drivers tonight.
Yeah, it's so tricky, especially here, to get a good, clean qualifying lap in without dropping a wheel somewhere, and clearly that's what he's being challenged with today in this qualifying session. Or in this open qualifying format, sometimes when you're trying to get a draft train going, you can easily bump a little bit and invalidate your lap time. So that's something you have to be careful of. And clearly these drivers, in some cases, in Bean's case, is having some struggles.
Deacon Greenfield trying to get in one of those draft trains at the moment, looking a bit disorganized on the back straightaway. Looks like Formula One out there, but Deacon has had a pretty decent start to the season. He got caught up in a couple collisions at VIR, but his pace continues to improve week in and week out. He's got virtual reality, which I think helps in some of these really intense racing situations, but a very strong qualifying effort. I think one of his best ever if he can hang on to it here in the top 5.
And if he's good at VIR, he should definitely be good here. Very similar racetracks in the way they were built. They follow the land. I think there's a little more land for Mid-Ohio here, but they very much follow the terrain, follow the lay of the land, the hills, the dips, and the bends. Really, they feel natural here, especially down through Thunder Valley, back over the hills. We just saw Deacon do. Again, if you're good at VIR, you're probably going to be good here as, Beans finally got a lap in. He goes P7. Deacon here working from 3rd spot. I think he might have something today.
Yeah, looking very, very strong in his qualifying effort so far. Cam Eben joining us again. And this is a season-long run this time. He came in a couple rounds last year, or I guess in season 1. And Cam Eben, Andrew, if you've been in the Miatas in iRacing's official series, he's the Miata guy. So to have him here running 5th just goes to show you how intense this competition is.
Yeah, if you're going to have the Miata guy getting showed up by some of these drivers, I think that's a good thing, I think, for the league. That's definitely injecting some big-time competition, and we'll see what Cam can do. I think he'll absolutely be in the throes of things. He's only, I say only, about, 6.5 tenths off of pole right now? 7 tenths off pole, something like that. 3/4 of a second, which that can be made up for sure, and that can be negated with the draft here. But that's still, I think, worth noting that the top 5 is that spread out because you've got those couple of outliers in Soto and Burkhardt.
Yeah, those front 2, they're kind of in their own zip code, aren't they? They're halfway back to Cleveland at this point.
They're in their own state.
Yeah, 4 tenths ahead of Deacon Greenfield in 3rd. So obviously those 2 are to be ones to watch, but we've seen how this championship has gone in the past, and the way that races tend to go is that, in the first couple seasons, it was Morgan Burkhardt breaking away from the field, but he made a comment last week at Homestead after being one of the dominant forces alongside Camden Hibbett that he couldn't break away anymore, and that's something really important to note, that a driver that won 3 consecutive championships that used to dust the field is now not only not leading, but isn't able to break away. The one note we should make, though, is that it does not appear that we have Camden Hibbett here this week. I think he said he would be gone, so that's another driver that could be up in that front 2 or 3 that is not there this week.
Well, and that brings to mind, I know this is maybe a little outside of the scope of road racing, but NASCAR, they have the SMT data, and they're not the only ones with it, but NASCAR has, in recent years, opened that SMT data open to anybody. So anybody in the series can look at that and can compare what they're doing live compared to other drivers and teams. In iRacing, it's slightly delayed. You can't look while you're racing against the guy, I guess, but when you go back, you can watch a race. You can actually watch every single thing that your competitors do and learn from that. And eventually, enough races, enough seasons down, you can absolutely pick up little things that those drivers do, and the really good guys like Morgan Burkhardt. So eventually, these guys, between just getting laps in, getting those reps in, and racing against Morgan, they're able to look at what Morgan is doing and pick that pace up and learn things. So yeah, eventually, everybody's going to come back together. And it's cool that we're finally getting some of that.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, the motto of Full Send Sims is practice makes podium. And, these guys do a lot of practice. They have practice events before tracks that are new. There was a practice event last Thursday for this event. Again, we've never been to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, so I'm sure these drivers have been here either in the real world or in iRacing before. It's not an entirely new experience, but it's the first time with this series, so we don't know who the overdogs are going to be, so you have to come in having lots of practice. Of course, practice makes podium here for Full Send Sims, and having good sim gear, of course, is part of that. We'll talk more about the prizes on the season after qualifying and before the race kicks off, and of course our great sponsors that make it all possible. But a little bit of shifting and shuffling at the top. Piatek up to 3rd, Olivier Piatek in that 62, and Cam Eben jumped to 4, so it knocks Deacon Greenfield back
Not
to
so
P5
fast.
and then to P6, because here comes Rice-Puto.
Yeah, Rice-Puto with a big lap. He goes P4 now in car 03. Take a look at the Floridian. Nice understated paint scheme. I like the gray on that 03 car. He's at the back of one of these draft trains that we talked so much about. He's able to use that draft from who's ahead of him. That's going to be Deacon, actually. So he's using Deacon to go faster. How about that?
Yeah, really neat to see. Seth Spolman is also having a pretty good day so far. Where is he? P13. And we've got kind of an over-the-shoulder look at Spolman's view here. And we were talking last week with Greg about how there's a wide variety of sim setups on the calendar here, but this is a fun one. Got a couple card tables out and making do with what he's got.
Well, you know what? The VR is a big part of that. Looks like he's got a decent Thrustmaster wheel, I think, and that launch chair, those things are pretty comfortable. I gotta say, I have one very similar looking. They can be pretty dang comfortable. So while we're all kind of pinched into our sim rigs that might not feel the most comfortable, might not be the greatest, that thing, that's probably cozy.
It's got a cup holder. It's better than my Sim's got, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But Dean Dibdahl in the 99, this has been a driver that has been a phenom early this year, but has yet to put a lap on the board. And I don't know that he's even going to be able to finish this one. He's not, with only on minute 29. Oh, it's going to be close. He might be able to get it just in at the end, but because it's a heat-style event, you don't get that cool-down time to finish your lap. Once the checkered falls, it's game over. He's just going to get a lap in, if that.
It's definitely going to be close. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how far into the lap he is as far as time. He's got a minute 6 to go, minute 5 and counting. But he's through China Beach, turn 4, turn 5. I think he might just be able to tip the lap time, which I wonder if he was counting that and just counting on the fact that he can get one lap in. I doubt it, but well, minute 15 in.
Yeah, 20 seconds to spare, I think, is what he's going to have, roughly.
Yeah.
But he only got one go at it, so if he gets held up by traffic, certainly he must have been late, because we would typically see Dean getting many more laps in qualifying here. Only 6 or 7 run by most of the field, and Dean has yet to put one in.
A driver who won't get a lap time in, meanwhile, driver 61, Andrew Guetta, he's not going to make it. No. He just went through turn 1 and still does not have a lap of record. This is now lap 2 for him, so he clearly dropped a wheel somewhere and had an incident. Meanwhile, Dibdahl through the final corner to the start-finish line this time, as long as he didn't drop a wheel.
Yeah, but it's not representative, though. It's only a minute 52, so it's going to drop him to the tail anyway. So that's not the effort that Dean Dibdahl would have liked, because he'll start P27 at best.
And it looks like it didn't even count for him.
Yeah, that's tough. That's going to be a lot of work for him to do, but that's the beauty of having this 2-race format, is you can use race 1 to work your way into race 2. Maybe it'd be a little bit better if race 2 you requalified, because you get a second shot at it. But all the while, Full Send Sims, of course, big thanks to Full Send Sims and Court Schmidt for putting on this series. As they say, practice makes podium. They put up all the prizes for us as well for the end of the season. We'll talk about those in a moment. Of course, 3P Logistics, owner Frank Rodriguez, logistical support for you, your family, and your race car. They take care of booking flights, rental cars, hotels, and group gatherings so that you can focus on racing on the racetrack. And of course, Final Turn Motorsports, Rob Greenwood's full-service prep shop and trackside support, dyno tuning. They build Miata transmissions, relevant for tonight. And they are a front-running chassis builder, partnered with the best engine builders in the Spec Miata class. So check out Final Turn Motorsports. And, of course, Wine Country Motorsports, the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, shoes, seats, and harnesses for over 30 years. And your one-stop shop for sim racing gear and Full Send Sims turnkey and custom simulators, and the best customer service in the business. Big thanks to Wine Country Motorsports, Final Turn, 3P Logistics, and Full Send Sims for making this all happen. Short pace lap here, though, Andrew, so let's get rolling through the starting lineup for this one. It's Joshua Soto on the front row in that number 77, and Morgan Burkhardt on the outside in the number 40.
Row 2, Olivier Piatek in the 62 car, right? Sputo from 4th spot. Big qualifying efforts, though, from those two.
Cam Evan rolls off 5th in the number 155, and Deacon Greenfield, a nice qualifying effort for him, rolls off 6th on the outside of row 3.
Row 4, 7th and 8th, Beans Forster, Andrew Gilliland. I like that name.
Yeah, Gilliland rolling off P8. Jorge Ortiz rolls off 9th in the 311. Andrew Wozencroft starts 10th in the number 80 car.
How about that? 2 Andrews back-to-back. Row 6, Hayden Manis in the 65 car, John Reyes from the 12th spot.
And 13th place is Seth Spolman in the 042. And Jeremy Fairburn rolls off the outside of row 7 in the 87.
Back to row 8, Dylan Lee inside. That'll be position 15. Jim Friedhofer from the 16th spot.
And in 17th is going to be Dave Brown in the 105. Joshua Clatterbuck rolls off 18th in the 901.
And to round out your top 10, Jose de las Casas That's probably not quite right, but I tried. Sebastian Kudemeyer in the 20th spot.
You got it. 21st place. Court Schmidt in the 172. Greg Ginsburg rolls off 22nd in the number 7. And as I mentioned, it is a short pace lap here. So there's the rest of your running order. It is time to go racing. 20 minutes up on the board here for round 3 of the 2024 Full Send Sim Spec Miata Esports Championship. Green flag flies and we're racing at Mid-Ohio up on the front straightaway. Typically a start on the backstretch here. Rasputo off to a good launch. And up the middle, that's Soto in the 77 through turn 1, Andrew.
A little bit of 3 wide getting to the first corner, but it's now 2x2 from second on back. The leader getting away. That's a big start for Morgan.
And Deacon Greenfield, big slide in the opening corner. He's gone backwards to 11th already. We're 3 abreast into the keyhole.
Big lunge on the inside. Who was that? I think that might have been, well, he's up to 3rd now almost, as we got a spinner in the back. That's going to be Beans Forster.
Oh, that's big trouble for Forster. He's going to get it straightened out, though. He doesn't run into anything, which is all good news. I think Seth Spolman was also slowed down by that, but they're still door-to-door for 3rd on back. It's Burkhardt leading Rasputo, leading Piatek, and then behind him it's a bit of a hornet's nest, isn't it?
Yeah, that was Soto, by the way, that big lunge back of it. No, it was car behind him. Anyways, Jorge Ortiz, that's a car that was making a big move. So the 311 to the top 5 you're watching here, though. Car number 80 on the outside. He's going way out there for turn 5.
Yeah, turn 5 over the crest there. They call that madness, and you don't typically want to track out all the way to driver's right because the next turn is a very compromising right-hander. Look at Eben on the outside of Jorge Ortiz in that 311. Will Eben try to cross him over?
A little bit of bumper contact over the crest into Thunder Valley. Eben, though, has to fall back in and try to square that 311 up one more time. It's not going to happen here at the end of the lap, I don't think. He might be able, no, not in the carousel, surely. He's too far back.
Yeah, that carousel is a really challenging turn because you have to slow down and corner all at the same time. Burkhardt out to an 0.8 of a second advantage. Can anybody keep him in sight and in touch? If they let him get away, it could be game over as Grant Jackson's gone around for a spin at the exit of turn 9 over the crest there.
Just a little bit out of control, got out into the grass and never really gathered it up, probably got crossed up with his hands. But didn't you say that Morgan Burkhardt felt like he couldn't break away anymore?
Yeah, but you know, I'm keeping an eye on that gap. It's 7/10 now, so Rasputo and Piatek, they know the assignment. Don't let Morgan get away, because if he does and breaks that draft, it's game over. But as we said, Morgan said last week, he doesn't think it's possible anymore. We'll see if it's true.
Well, he's working on it at the very least, and right now he kind of controls the race for sure as Beans Forster tries to work back up from the 25th spot. But this is an interesting dynamic up front. You've got Rasputo, Piatek, and Soto following, then a little battle with Ortiz and Evans still, and then the rest of the top 10 is kind of just hit or miss. We've got a big grab bag of who else is following in. A battle actually for 10th spot. You see the pass there on your screen. Sean Reyes on the P10.
Yeah, up over Hayden Manis in the 65. We've seen Hayden battling just outside the top 10. I think he'd really like to score a nice solid finish and get some points on the board again here this week at Mid-Ohio. And that 80 car we were watching earlier, that's Andrew Wozencroft. He's gone backwards in the early stages of this race, trying to claw one back from Dylan Lee in the 20. Right out to the edge of the rumbles there through turn 9. That's a treacherous spot to be.
Rasputo starting to get away from Piatek. We could have, I don't know, might have 2 cars breaking away at some point as Soto just hangs on to the back end of Piatek. This is up in your top 5. Rasputo's looking good. Like there's some definitely some driver corners here where you can actually break away and at least gain a 10th here, a 10th there. And not only Rasputo, but Morgan Burkhardt is doing that. Both of these guys are.
Well, look at the last lap time on the left-hand side of your screen. Rasputo last time was a 141.2 to Burkhardt's 141.1. So he was slower, but not by that much. So maybe he's the correct locomotive to have tacked on the front of the train at the moment. He is definitely pulling Piatek. There's not a lot of pressure from that green 62.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of 41.1, 41.2 from the lap times there. Again, you get that little 10th here, 10th there or so as we've got a replay coming. This is going to be Cam Eben and Jorge Ortiz.
Yeah, I think there was an exchange here on the run down to the keyhole. Watch the braking by Eben really late. Whoa. And pushes through. A little contact there, actually.
Clear enough.
Clear enough. Yeah, he got through it, and the keyhole's an interesting corner. It's hard to see from a lot of angles, but this will give you a perspective. You go uphill into the beginning of it. At the tail end of it, though, you're actually going pretty sharply downhill. So as you're cornering, you get kind of pulled away from the apex. As Court Schmidt's down on pit lane, and I think this was also an issue. Could it have been a missed shift Yes, boom. Just like that, out of the race. Talking about that H-pattern gearbox and all the challenges that come with it, Andrew.
Yeah, we talked about that heel toe earlier on, and if you don't get it quite right, you can do exactly that in money shift, and it's called money shift for a reason. Back to the keyhole, though, you're right. You go up the racetrack just a little bit and kind of crest as you turn in, kind of hit that first apex. You can kind of get two there, and immediately once you get to the curving, the track just falls away, and you're stuck chasing the wheel out as you end up in the dirt somewhere, probably the gravel and the tire barrier eventually. It's a really weird corner. But again, that's where this racetrack just follows the land really nicely, and I think makes it that much more challenging. And going back to earlier, if you're good at VIR, you're probably going to be pretty decent here, if not good here.
Yeah, this is just one of those great American racetracks that flows so nicely, but...
Whoa! Cam Eben, big trouble behind, and that's in the keyhole.
Yeah, off at the keyhole. We were just talking about how challenging this corner was. Did he get some assistance, perhaps, or was this all on his own? And the answer is the former.
Oh, yeah.
And into the gravel. Up front, Morgan Burkhardt has not been able to run away, so that answers that question. Ray Sputo has tracked him back down and brought some friends with him in the form of Piatek and Soto. It's 3.6 back to Ortiz in fifth, though, so the front four have essentially chopped the head off this monster, and they've got Burkhardt right in the crosshairs here.
Well, if you're Morgan and you've run 3 laps and you can't break away over a second to break that draft chain, it's about a second delta that you're wanting to break. If you can't break past that, you may as well lay back a little bit and save your stuff for a little bit later in this race. I know it's not a long race, right? But you definitely want to keep your tires underneath you for 20 minutes. So as you look, track temp 111 degrees, it's pretty hot. If you can't break away, sit back, save your stuff a little bit for when they get to you. You'll be able to battle just a little bit harder.
Yeah, certainly. Over the course of 20 minutes, it's less about degradation, and as you pointed out, more about keeping the tires under you, meaning temperature, right? They're not going to wear out in 20 minutes, but they will get hot very quickly if you abuse them. And so there's something to that for Morgan Burkhardt, to not push too hard and leave some tire in the bank for the end of the race. But Rice Budo has used a lot of tire to chase him down. And now the question becomes, do you immediately battle or do you wait this one out? We've seen that these cars are not quite as volatile as the ND generation Miatas. So at times you'd just like to take the spot and defend, especially at a track like Mid-Ohio that doesn't have all that much straightaway in comparison to some other tracks on the calendar.
Yeah, I think this car is a little bit less top end, right? A little bit less even torque up out of the corner. I'm not totally sure, but
yeah,
it definitely feels that way driving this car. Feels like you just have you're just lacking a little bit in the speed department for a couple of reasons. So I don't think it's a bad idea to go up and get that spot if you can. Otherwise, I still think it's kind of like the Daytona Talladega strategy. Just wait until the last moment, because otherwise it's probably going to happen to you.
Right, and we look at tracks like Road Atlanta or Road America or even Daytona, Watkins Glen. Those are all places where you have an opportunity to pass late in the lap. This is one of the tracks that I don't think you do. I think your last real opportunity is into turn 4. You get really a good one at Keyhole, and you get one going into turn 4. But after that, you're kind of stuck unless you're really a lot quicker than the guy ahead of you. That forces a bit of aggression late in this race, and we're approaching the halfway stage now. So I think Rice Budo is going to maybe try to poke some holes in the defense and see what sticks, and then figure out the chess moves for the end of the race.
Beats Forster just went for another spin, and he gets back going now in position 19. But to your point, Kyle, if you can clear somebody straight up, definitely I think the move has to be maybe the keyhole or turn 4. If you're willing to race somebody wheel-to-wheel heads up, maybe you can do it into, through the S's and into Thunder Valley, that kind of middle section of the course, where it's a little bit twisty and bendy. You might be able to get alongside somebody and challenge it. If you can get to the right side, you can take that right-hand turn into Thunder Valley, drop down the hill, and try to have that driver cleared by the carousel. But yeah, unless you're going to clear somebody, you definitely want to do it pretty quickly in 1 or 4.
Here's Dean Dibdahl up to 16th place after starting down in 28th, so his progress has been quite nice, and he's faster than the next 6 or 7 cars ahead of him. Actually make that 8 or 9. He's actually quick enough to be running 8th right now on pace alone, so Dibdahl has got a long way to go as far as track position is concerned. I imagine some of this will continue in race 2, but it goes back to, to qualifying. Had he qualified better, this could be a top 5 run instead of just hearkening for a top 10 at this stage.
Well, so the lineup for race 2, remind me and everybody else, Kyle, it's just a straight set of the results, or is there an invert?
Correct, exactly as the results from race 1. So you're not going to get an advantage of any invert or anything. So it's where you finish is where you start.
He'll at least have the advantage, I suppose, of passing about 10 cars so far, if not more, and be able to be in the mid-pack and I think use some of that draft train once we get going in race 2. But he's definitely going to want to go up there and grab some more spots. Right now, to the leader, he's 16 seconds back, so he's got some traffic in front of him, including this Joshua Clatterbuck, number 901 car. That's our 15th spot. And he's got even another couple of cars and then a couple of seconds ahead. Freidhofer, Spolman, and then Rosencroft and some others. If he can keep chunking away that time, he can work close to the top 10 pretty quickly. Yeah,
Clatterbuck did not get through the gears very well in the front straightaway and had a bit of a wide line through the carousel that didn't set him up very well. So Dibdahl's going to go through and take 15th place away. Used up that curb in turn 1, and I think he got burned for it. Cut course penalty for Dean Dibdahl, and that's, I was going to mention that you can get away with quite a bit at turn 1, but not that much there, Andrew.
No, that is one corner where I feel like it's pretty clearly defined. You do not want to put left side tires on the inside of that big yellow curb, but it's so tough, man. You want to hit it because it helps turn the car. And if you can just hook on the inside of it, you might be able to get away with just the 1X for clipping it, really turning the car, but you can also really spin the car very quickly that way.
Dylan Lee and Andrew Rosencroft. This is a battle we saw in the opening lap through this section of the course. And they haven't really gone anywhere since the green flag, so they continue to do their battle with only 8.5 minutes to go. Big push for Rosencroft through turn 6. Couldn't get the car pointed quite right. That allows Lee to sprint away a bit.
Yeah, Rosencroft, as we mentioned, was briefly top 10 and then fell back quickly to 13th. He's clearly picked up a spot, it looks like, over Spolman, but hasn't really gone any further in that number 80. Ahead of him, you have Dylan Lee, as you mentioned, and even further ahead, you have Hayden Manis in that 10th spot. Then Andrew Gilliland has recently been passed up, I believe, by Jean Reyes. So that kind of midfield, right around the top 10 cutoff, has been moving around as one car is off. That is the 61, wasn't it? 65?
Didn't get a look at it where it was on course.
It was right in front of Rosencroft. I know I kind of climbed up to the top 10 there a little bit, but I was still watching Rosencroft, and one car went off, and it scared me a little bit.
I was trying to see
on was a lapper.
I was trying to see on the timing screen who that could have been, but I didn't.
I think it was Guetta, the 61 car, and it was. So he's a lap down.
Got it. Well, let's go back and have a look at it because I missed it on screen. Is it before this?
It was right before. It was into the carousel. He just kind of missed the corner. You'll see it here.
Yeah, this is a tricky corner again. You have to brake in a straight line and then get the car turned. You have to let off the brakes to regain grip. Again, your front tires can only do so much at once. They can turn or they can brake, but they can't do both the same with the same effectiveness. You got to pick one and trade off between turning and braking grip, and that's a great example corner of how to threshold brake and then release to gain back your front grip to continue turning into the corner. Tell you what though, Andrew, 6.5 minutes to go, and it's getting pretty spicy up here at the front.
I'll tell you who probably isn't doing a whole lot of threshold braking, these guys right now. They're just riding, biding their time. They will be doing some threshold braking soon, I think, but right now, a very calm line, although Soto has definitely packed up the back end of Piatek, and he's definitely, I think, getting ready for the storm.
Yeah, he was really quick in practice and qualifying and didn't get a great launch on the start. And there's one car off there at the entrance to pit lane. I think that's Grant Jackson. It's come to a stop. But either way, no harm up at the front. So 6 minutes and 20 seconds. That brings us to about 4 laps to go. I think maybe, 4 laps to go this time through roughly. And now who's going to be the first domino to fall is my question. Is it Rasputo on Burkhardt or Soto on Piatek?
Yeah, somebody's got to move. And you don't want to be behind that too wide. You want to be in front of that too wide if possible. And here we go. We might have our answer.
Whoa, lunge into turn 2 for Joshua Soto and pass complete. That was a textbook out-braking maneuver. And, you know, there's a lot of talk often about dive bombs and getting proper overlap, but it's not really a dive bomb if you can make the corner after it, is it, Andrew?
No, yeah, I wouldn't call that a dive bomb at all. That's just making the corner nicely and making the pass. That was really beautiful from Soto. And you know what? we were saying somebody has to go somewhere. I wonder if he was listening to the broadcast, because that was perfect timing.
Yeah, he picked up. Thankfully, it wasn't the commentator curse. It was quite the opposite, but a little wide there at the exit of 5, and you got to set up for this turn 6, which is such a deceptive corner. That Honda bridge is gone now. They don't have that anymore. It's a sight line that some drivers would use. And then into turn 9 here through Thunder Valley. They call this section up and over the crest. Piatek's ahead of the steering of Soto a bit. I want him to get a decent run, but what do you do with it here?
Yeah, not really anywhere to go. That's where I was talking about earlier. You want to get side by side, if anything.
Wow. So close.
But he is on him, though.
He is, and I think this little mini scrap is pulling them out of the rear view of Rice Budo, which, again, as these two battle, it's going to allow Rice Budo and Burkhardt to feel a bit more comfortable battling amongst themselves. Rice Budo's matching Burkhardt's pace. I don't know that he's faster in a way that he's able to find an advantage in an overlap, though.
But that's what the draft is for, Kyle.
Yeah.
There aren't many long straightaways here. I mean, you have an okay straightaway down the front stretch into turn 1. Can't really do a whole lot there, but you can set up for this straight into the keyhole. And Rice Budo pulling up, and we just get in the mirrors there of Morgan saying, hello, I'm here. I'd like to go by, and Soto missed the keyhole behind him. But this is your golden opportunity, as 3rd and 4th might fight some more. If you can set up nicely through 1 and through 2, you might have something down this long straight, the longest straightaway on the racetrack into turn 4.
Yeah, this is why this has such a big gravel trap at the end of it, isn't it? Because all your big optimistic moves come down here into turn 4. Rice Budo was off the corner, kitty corner there to Burkhardt. Burkhardt messed up his downshift. He's wide at 4, but he sweeps out wide, and he's going to gather it up and defend nicely into 5. Rice Budo is all over him, but now he's got to find a place to pass. He's going to try it into turn 6, but Burkhardt covers it off.
Rice Budo cut him a break. That was really close into that corner, and I guess he didn't have to lift in Miata racing, but I'm glad he did. This battle lives on to see another corner. But you know what? Right here on the replay, if you're going to go wide anywhere, Kyle, turn 4 is probably the one place you want to do it. You can set up nicely for turn 5 and park it on apex. It's exactly what Burkhardt did, and he's able to keep the spot as a result. He did kind of lean over and Pruitt fade over on Rice Budo, but that's just racing.
Yeah, well, he did a nice job placing his car where he did, because it definitely balked Rice Budo. He thought about going to the inside there, but didn't have enough of a run to be able to do that safely. But Burkhardt, he saved, you mentioned running wide at turn 4 is not a bad idea, or it doesn't hurt you that bad there. The line takes you very shallow into turn 5 anyway. So if you can gather up turn 4 and at least stay on the road, you're actually not that far offline for the next corner because of that short downhill stint from 5 to 6. If it was on the other racetrack, you want to sweep into turn 5, that left-hander, very wide and apex late, but you don't do that at turn 5 normally here at Mid-Ohio. So that's why Burkhardt was able to salvage that corner. We get 2 laps to go and the battle's back on.
And you know what? Rice Budo was able to take that interaction they had the last lap and learn from it, right? He's able to think, what might he be able to do differently to try and get that spot if the situation replicates itself. We'll see if anything happens here. He leans to the inside of turn 4, will not make the move. But he's also kind of gauging, can he maybe make the move the next lap and go up the inside of turn 4 and try to take the spot away?
Wider line into 5. He's going to try this late apex, but there's not a lot of straightaway for you to do anything with it there. So it did gain him a bit of ground on Burkhardt, but I just don't know how much it's going to last for, because, again, it's into 6 and 7 after that.
Look in his proverbial mirror, and I think you'll see why he's kind of moving around a little bit.
He's got pressure, doesn't he, from Josh Soto? Yeah. And this is all what Burkhardt wants to see. He would love Soto to start poking holes in Rice Budo's armor here, wouldn't he?
I wonder if that's why Rice Budo faded over a little bit down the backstretch into turn 4. Maybe just trying to not only get in Morgan's mirror, but also discourage Soto from going up the inside. I'd have to imagine so, but now we're going to rinse, repeat, and reset. 1 lap to go.
Here we go. Final couple of corners. Rice Budo is really wide there. He had to chase the car. There's the white flag from the flag stand. 4/10 to the lead, but it's only a 1/10.5 from 2nd to 3rd. And Rice Budo's eyes have gone from the windshield to the rearview mirror, because that's where the pressure is in the form of Joshua Soto in that CRP Racing MX-5. Soto's out wide and in the dirt at the exit of 1.
He went way out there, and that's going to help Rice Budo a bunch, at least focus on the keyhole and try to claw some of that time back, and he needs to. He's almost a half second back now, going into his best opportunity to take this race away from Morgan Burkhardt. He's got to be perfect out of this corner and get a big run, and even then, I don't know that he's close enough. He's still nearly a half second back. I don't think he's going to be there to turn 4.
He's going to take some chunks out of the lead, though. It'll be down to about the low end of 4/10 into China Beach down here at turn 4. 3/10 maybe. It's going to be close enough to get to his bumper by the end of the lap, but then I don't know if he can get through it unless he does something pretty desperate here. Into madness for the final time. Raspudo closes in, but as we anticipated, not close enough to make a pass.
There are some great other battles, but we got to watch up here. First, second, third, and fourth. Here's one of them, though. You've got Wozencroft and Dylan Lee side by side at a turn 4. Final lap, Lee on the inside, Wozencroft on the outside. That's going to change now. Wozencroft with the advantage. Suddenly, he hooks that curving. Almost has the spot cleared again. Now he's on the outside for turn 6. Lee back up in the inside. What a battle as our leaders spread out.
Yeah, what a great battle. We'll have to check in on that one in a bit, though. Morgan Burkhardt in the 40 wrestles his car through the last couple turns here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and just like he did last week in race 1, he's going to go back to victory lane today at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Burkhardt wins race 1, Raspudo and Soto the rest here, and back to the place for 11th. Look at this, Andrew. Battle between these two.
Still side by side, not relenting. Wozencroft still there. No, he's going to have to back out. Nearly gets to the back end, and Dylan Lee might have bumped him there. He's going to bump him a little bit. Can't get the spot, though, through the final corner. Lee is going to take 11th position. Wozencroft has to settle for 12th.
What a fun fight. That was great.
That was amazing stuff. That's the essence of racing, if you will. Going back, though, to why I said suddenly through the carousel coming to the checkers, not only Raspudo but Piatek both went way into the grass, and I'm hoping, well, I guess clearly they're keeping the spot right now. It could adjust. I'm hoping they didn't grab a time penalty or anything. If they didn't quite serve it in time, it might be trouble.
Yeah, that's interesting because we'd have to wait until all the drivers are done finishing their own respective races before we'll know the answer to that. Here's what you were talking about. Let's go from high above. And Soto and Piatek in particular.
I don't know that they're going to grab a penalty, but it was, both way out there. You see Raspudo, he at least kept on the curbing, but Piatek was in the grass.
Yeah, that is pretty wide. And again, I wonder if there even is a slowdown there. You'd imagine there would be because there is a right bend, but it appears for now they're keeping their spots in 3rd and 4th respectively. But wow, what a start to tonight's action.
One car is not finished. Grant Jackson's parked out in China Beach and Madness here. He has had a massive incident, it looks like.
Yeah, he's been there for a while. I wonder if this is recent. He was in the gravel.
It is. It's relatively recent. If you back it up, here we go. This is going to be a ride.
Down here whoa, he's really hot. Almost like he had brake failure off into China Beach and pow, into the tire bundles. That's no fun.
He at least didn't go flipping like a certain IndyCar recently. That's a good thing. That's still a pretty vicious incident into turn 4. And thankfully, it's sim racing. Hopefully that wasn't on a motion rig. That still would have been a big hit. And now, even as he's trying to bring the car back to pit lane live, it's not working so well, as you see there.
And that will be the end of it for him there as the session ticks over. We've got a couple minutes to kind of debrief and talk about what we saw before we head into the next race. But holy cow, that was a fantastic battle. I wanted to go back one more time and re-watch the one between Wozencroft and Dylan Lee, because this was spectacular, wasn't it, Andrew? Well, let's try one more. Let's try one more time.
They were side by side the whole lap.
Yeah, it started on the back straightaway here. Then it comes down to turn 4, and just lots of room given here. A lot of respect between these two.
Yeah, Lee a little deep there, but again, this is racing for a spot on the final lap of Mid-Ohio. You're going to have that. While it isn't for the win, it is for the first position outside the top 10, I guess. So a win in and of itself, and Lee right on the inside of it. This is, again, the essence of good racing, especially in these Spec Miatas at a place like Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, and they continue it, and I think this is one of the hardest corners on the racetrack to do this. Wozencroft crosses him over here. What an excellent piece of driving that was. He read the road beautifully and then got on the preferred line for the next couple of corners. He just couldn't hang on through turn 10.
He's in a great spot here, right? I talked about it earlier, being on the right side through Thunder Valley. Just couldn't quite hang right there. Ends up getting cleared into the carousel. Nearly got back to the back bumper of Lee. Tried there. Tried again here. I don't think he was trying to necessarily hit him too hard, but he got there. Just couldn't get the spot back away.
Yeah, he's offline here. This is a very flat off-camber corner. It's really tricky to maintain overlap out there. But had he just kept a fender on the 200 to Dylan Lee, I think he would have had that spot. But that was fun to watch for sure. Of course, we'll talk to our 3 podium finishers at the end of race number 2, but having a look at the weather here, got a couple more minutes before we head back to racing, and it just continues to heat up, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you can see the time there ticking up and up and up. It's about 1:30 in sim. That means we're in the middle of the day, right? The sun is still just about directly overhead. 122 degrees track temp. I've experienced 126 ambient in my life, and let me tell you, that is not, that's not fun.
No.
So 122 track temp is pretty darn similar for the tires, at least, and it's going to be a lot of friction generated, a lot of tire temp generated. Going back to that conversation with Morgan, trying to keep that temp down once he realized he couldn't pull away, that's going to be important here in race 2, even more important than race 1.
I would agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about the prizes that are on the line here for the end of the year, of course, provided by our great sponsors, as well as Full Send Sims. But first place in the championship gets a Saybelt GT Pad race seat to add to their race car, or I guess their sim rig should they choose. Second place gets a set of SimLab XP1 pedals, including a clutch, which is great news for those that continue to use the 8-pattern gearbox. And third place, one of my favorite peripherals for sim racing, one of those iFlag LED flag boxes, Andrew. If you've ever had a chance to see or use one of those are really good for immersion, giving you the flags in your sim room.
Absolutely. I mean, when your whole room is lighting up yellow, it's hard to miss a yellow flag that way. Or I don't know if you can line up orange maybe in like a diagonal across your room with that kind of thing. When you get the meatball flag, I get a few of those in my day. But those are really cool devices.
Yeah, really cool. So that's what's on the line for Season 2. Of course, at the end of 2023, all the drivers that had previously won prizes, everyone gets reset and is eligible once again. But throughout the year, if you participate here and you win a prize, you become ineligible for the following season. So what that means is that for the rest of 2024, every season we do, those prizes will start paying out to us effectively, if the results are the same, 4th, 5th, and 6th in the championship, then 7th, 8th, and 9th in the championship. So it is worth participating to give yourself a shot to win one of those great prizes provided by this series. And a big thanks to Court and all the people involved to make it all happen as we continue to work our way through the season. Before we get back to racing here in just over a minute, race schedule. Important note, we are not racing next week. It is a rare off week here for the Full Send Sims Spec Miata series. We have an off week next week, but then it's Sebring's short course on May 28th, followed by Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen International's boot configuration, Daytona, Homestead, Road America, and then Sebring's full course to round out the Season 2 championship. And having just visited Sebring a couple of weeks back, what a spectacular place for road racing it is. Can't say it's one of my favorite tracks to be at, Andrew, because it's always a gazillion degrees, and they got fire ants there. Ask my ankles. I still have scars, but it is a great racetrack.
Yeah, that's one racetrack that, as much as I'd love to go there and experience the racetrack portion, I think I'm okay settling for the sim.
Yes.
Because that Florida temperature, it's nothing about the track and everything about the location. I'm not built for Florida. I'm built for Arizona. Like I said, 126 degrees ambient with zero humidity. That I'm okay with. 100 and some with 100% humidity in Florida, not so much my speed.
Yeah, and I can tell you, it was about 95 all week when I was there about 2 weeks ago. And it actually wasn't as bad as when the same 95 in the fall because of the humidity. So just a fascinating place. Great racetrack, though. Can't wait to end our season there. But our time to grid it up for our second race of the evening. And, we're starting as we finished. So your starting lineup is on the left-hand side of the screen. And, Andrew, after what we saw in race 1 between Burkhardt and Rice-Budo, do you hold back any punches knowing that Morgan is as good at defense as he is?
Lap 1 is definitely going to have to be a big lap 1 for anybody, I think, in the top 5 or even top 10 to gain these spots. Not just in that battle with Burkhardt, but everyone up there has got to be on it and take some chances. Drive fast, take chances, as one of my friends say. You've got to here at the start of the race.
Andrew Gilliland, top 10 result for him in race 1, and I think I might know why looking at that graphic. Ohio native. That's pretty fun. I know that drivers that end up in the Midwest, Andrew, speaking from experience, drivers that are that grow up in the Midwest, that race on Midwestern tracks, they love their hometown facilities, whether it's places like Mid-Ohio or Blackhawk Farms or up in Michigan, Gingerman Raceway. There's a lot of really nice club tracks, of course, Mid-Ohio being the upper end of the club tracks, or you could consider it obviously a pro track with IndyCar and IMSA there, but this is a cool place to have as a local track on your calendar.
Absolutely.
So race 2, another 20-minute segment here. Burkhardt and Rice-Budo on the front row. If Nicholas can hang the overlap here through turn 1, he might have a shot at the race lead heading into Keyhole. Here's some contact in the back, but the green flag is waving, and we're underway once again for the Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series. Side by side, a great start by Rice-Budo in that 0-3 up the outside, and we're 3 abreast with Jeremy Fairburn in the background. Look at that move into turn 1. Contact!
Oh, that's a big crash. That's everybody behind Rice-Budo nearly. Soto gets through. Everybody's scrambling all over the racetrack. It was a very disjointed green flag, but that's all it takes sometimes to clear out everybody in the top 10. Wozencroft now is 4th. That's how big that event in turn 1 just was.
Yeah, that was big. We'll have to go back and look at it again. I was trying to catch
Dean Dibdahl is
Piatek.
5th.
How did that happen?
Well, that crash. I mean, that's insane. Wozencroft is 4th, Dibdahl is 5th, Forster is 6th, and Morgan Burkhardt, meanwhile, got sorted back to 7th spot.
Look at Andrew Gilliland up to 3rd place. He started 9th.
Incredible.
Hometown driver having a shot at a win here if they can close it back up to Rice-Budo, because he's got a 2.5 advantage now. So all that chaos in the opening lap has totally mixed up the running order and dropped Burkhardt down to 7th. Look at Beans Forster, P6. Where did he come from?
Yeah, that was really big for everybody. Some positive, some negative, as now Dibdahl works on Rosencroft. We've got, whoa, big move from him. You see him now on the right side of Forster's screen. 3 wide we go.
That you see him grinning there. He knew that was going to be fun. And they're still 3 abreast. This time it's Morgan Burkhardt back up to P5 here trying.
And Wozencroft smartly backed out of that before it really narrowed up here into the back end, very back end of the course. That allowed Dylan Lee to go through as well. He now watches this side-by-side fight as they work through the carousel. Burkhardt going to get clear of that Forster machine. Now set his sights on now 4th place Dean Dibdahl, who never got a chance to qualify. Started from the very rear of race number 1 as you see Clatterbuck off the racetrack.
Yeah, that was a frantic first lap. And while there's still lots of things happening in the background, let's go back and have a look at what happened through turn 1. And it really started right off the green with a 3 wide move from, I think that is
Fairburn.
Thank you, in the 87. Drops to the inside of Soto here. And then Piatek is going to get clipped right here.
Yeah, that was just a really big move, and while it was really cool to watch, if I had to get critical, I'd say it's a relatively low percentage move.
Yeah, I mean, the other argument is that he's got overlap there, and it's established, and Piatek might not have left him enough space, but that's for the stewards to decide. I think the outcome will have a pretty heavy impact on that as well, but the battles continue with a bit of a revolving door of drivers at the front of the field. Burkhardt is desperately trying to work his way back up to the front.
Burkhardt going to have the inside here at turn 6. He should pull right on through. It's going to bring Forster as well now side by side with Dibdahl again. Lee watching on. They get single filed for a short time. I don't think they'll stay that way for long.
Yeah, it looks like Forster's going to have overlap on Dibdahl here through turn 7, or 9 rather, and he is through. So give Forster P5, and that will turn
Look
Burkhardt
at Cam
loose.
Evan. These are behind these guys.
Yeah, and where did he end up? He was 19th in race 1. So that's a big gain for him as well.
Wozencroft and Greenfield currently wrapping up your top 10. He's right on board with the Cam Evan machine. The Miata guy of all Miata guys. Up front, I will say, Soto is still within draft range of Rice-Budo, so we'll still have a fight between those two, I think. It's a long shot, though, for Gilliland to get up there. Despite his Ohio nativeness, I just don't think he's going to make up the second and a half nearly that it's going to require as you watch Evan still look up on Dylan Lee. That's 7th and 8th.
And then Piatek in the background is chasing Jim Friedhofer here in the 89. And he's got a ton of damage on that OPM Racing Miata, but it's not going to hold him back. He'll go back to 11th place, hook that curb, and set his sights on 10th place Deacon Greenfield. But your point about Gilliland, I have to agree. I don't know that he's got the pace of the front two, but with these front two so separated, are they going to feel overly confident, perhaps, Andrew, and maybe toss some paint back and forth, knowing that they've got a 2-second advantage over the next car.
Possibly, as though Friedhofer's now off the racetrack, and he's got a big set of damage. But, well, I believe we're gonna cue the replay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was side-by-side contact on the straightaway, and he's gonna come back across the road and pow into the concrete. That's a big one.
That's a big disagreement over space with somebody. It was Hayden Manis, it looks like, in the 165 car, rather. Here's the replay. Friedhofer just moved over.
Yeah, I think they might have touched it and got hooked together, and that just ended very poorly for the 89. Wow. Yeah, a lot of racetrack width there and not a lot given.
Back to the conversation about the top two, though. If they're able to cool themselves, and I think they will, these are two very smart race car drivers. As long as they stay smart about it, they can realize they've got 2 seconds and growing back to Gilliland, and where everybody's been trying to beat Burkhardt, right? They've got 4 seconds on that guy. So if they just wait until the very end of this race, they can battle the last 2 laps maybe, they're going to have plenty of time to car 40, and even if Burkhardt gets Gilliland, they'll have that spot over Burkhardt and race for the win themselves.
Let's see if Gilliland can hang on to third for as long as possible with Morgan closing in on him here, and he's going to bring a host of others with him. Forster, Dibdahl, Dylan Lee, Cam Eben. A little more interaction back here between Rich Green, Hayden Manis, and the one of Jose de las Casas. We didn't really talk about him a lot in race 1. Not a phenomenal finish, but he's making good with the forward progress here in this race.
I think that would loosely translate to Jose of the Houses. That's a cool name.
Yeah, there you go. And behind them, Jean Reyes and Jeremy Fairbairn are nose to tail, and you have to wonder if Fairbairn has any regrets. And I don't know that you could pin 100% of the responsibility on that 3-wide overtake into turn 1. I don't think he will be able to overlook his portion because he got as wrapped up in the crash as everybody else. And that car looking quite secondhand, and so is the positioning on the course right now.
I'd say that car looks about half of Spec Miatas that get raced anywhere in the country at some point in their lives.
Yeah,
at some point in their lives, I think every Spec Miata looks something close to that, unfortunately. That's just Spec Miata racing. As well, you're watching this fight, a little bit of side-by-side contact with Fairbairn. We also had some positions swapping ahead right here. This conversation, Gilliland just got passed up by Burkhardt and slid right in front of Beans Forster, but just barely. Yeah,
it didn't take Morgan very long to track Andrew back down, but I still think that there's a top 5 in conversation here for Gilliland if he can stay ahead of Dean Dibdahl. I think Forster is going to get by here, but we'll see. Get through the gears here. I love watching the footwork as he accelerates up behind Gilliland. And then it's 6/10 back to Dibdahl and then Eben. There's a hard group of drivers behind, and Gilliland did not get off the corner very well. I wonder if he was inefficient through the gearbox or something.
Educate me here, Kyle. I see Mazda Motorsports on the side of the 91. Is that just for fun, or does that have some meaning?
There's a lot of young racers here in this championship that have various relationships with their teams. I couldn't tell you exactly what Andrew's real-world plans are, but I can tell you that there's a handful of drivers in this field.
Is he in the pipeline?
Potentially, I think so. I mean, again, half of these drivers are competitors in the real world in some various level of motorsport, and many in the Spec Miata ranks. I mean, when you look across road racing, Andrew, where's the de facto place everyone says you got to start? It's Spec Miata. I mean, it's where you learn racecraft in particular. You got 50 cars out there. They're all willing to run you over for a spot. You got to, pave your way somehow. Although this is a Spec MX-5 livery, which is a series that runs this NC generation Miata in the real world. So slightly different than the Spec Miata that we all know and love, NB and NA generation cars.
Well, yeah, you go back to saying the Miata basically is where you start. As soon as you get out of a cart, Yeah, I'd say the Miata for sure, and that has opportunities, as we've seen with guys like Connor Zilic, to go up and go places like GT4 racing or even LMP2 and eventually NASCAR, if that's your thing. He's really done well with the whole Mazda pipeline and gone very far with it already.
Absolutely, and I think there's some drivers that are even skipping the karting step now and jumping straight into Formula 4 and things of the sort, especially with, you got schools like Skip Barber Racing School that will basically put you in an F4 right out of the gate. And then you can move into sports car ranks, and you mentioned GT4, and really that's the goal. Once you're in GT4, Andrew, the step into a GT3 isn't an astronomical change. Gain some power and gain some downforce, but it's a step from touring cars in particular into GT4 that is the big step that lots of drivers are shooting for.
Absolutely. And anything that you might be talking about on the weekend with SRO, if you can get into those cars, you've just about made it for sure, as we watch a fight here between Forster and Burkhardt. And watching these two, it's been very interesting to me just how much Forster is sticking to Burkhardt. I wonder if that's just that nose damage for Morgan, or if Forster's really got something here.
I think it's potentially a bit of both, right? Burkhardt's nose definitely has some damage. It's not helping the car, I'll tell you that much. But Forster knows that Burkhardt has pace and probably has a bit of pace on Beans. So if Beans can follow Morgan, he's going to A, learn something, and B, probably run down Joshua Soto quicker than he could on his own. The interesting note is that these front two, 3/10 apart, they have not yet started their fight. And Andrew, that's probably a good thing, because that 3.5 seconds is beginning to dwindle, and there's still enough time on the board. I think Burkhardt could get there.
If they got to racing, entire temp management is a big part of it. I don't know, though. Burkhardt does not... That car, I'm going to say the car, not the driver, that car looks a bit anemic. It's just... I haven't paid super close attention to the Delta. I guess I'll have to here, but I think he is chipping into it a little bit. I just don't think it's going to be enough. We're expecting about 12 laps in this race. We're on lap 7. So we're halfway through this race. I just don't know that he makes up 3.3 seconds. I guess as long as he makes up about 2.5, he'll get there, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, I've seen Burkhardt do some pretty crazy things. It is definitely a stretch, especially if Beans decides to give up on the work together trend. And typically when you see the driver behind start to poke holes in the defense, that's when you know they've given up and it's a battle for the best of the rest. But Soto, he's in a position where he could steal a victory from the reigning champion, and he's basically all alone with them. So separating the gazelle from the herd here a bit, isn't it?
Absolutely. He's got his target right in front. No worries out behind him. Hakuna Matata, just go get the guy.
Yeah, he's right in position. 8 minutes to go. Love the CRP Racing livery. And I mentioned last week, I thought that it was Ayrton Grimm joining us in this car, because it seems to be a livery that Ayrton has run in the real world. A 14-year-old SCCA and NASA phenom coming up through the ranks, and he's signed up for his first 2 Grid Life Touring Cup events as well later this year up in the Midwest. So
that's awesome.
Excited to see. He's the youngest driver to be in our paddock ever, and that's with a 20-year-old running in GLTC in a C5 Corvette. So very excited to see what Ayrton could do. I think it's a CRP NC Miata that he's going to be running there, very similar to the one that Soto's got. That's not something we see a lot in our paddock as 14-year-olds, but it seems to be very common in the SCCA ranks, especially down in the Southeast, Andrew. There's a lot of SCCA road racing that happens, especially in cars like this, where the next generation of sports car racers is vying for eyeballs and attention. And the way you can get it at first is right here in iRacing. It's proven to be a pretty reasonable place to stick your hat in the ring, hasn't it?
And you got some really cool racetracks to do it at here in the South. Virginia International Raceway, VIR, it's a great place to do it. And they've got racing all the time, it feels like. AMP maybe, and some club races. Atlanta Motorsports Park, of course, Road Atlanta, can't overlook it. Maybe even some events at Carolina Motorsports Park, somewhere that Grid Life was just at. Love that racetrack, really, really do. And of course, if you go further down the coast, you get down to places like Daytona, Sebring, Homestead. Plenty of racing all over the Southeast, in road racing specifically. I know it's kind of NASCAR country, but there's plenty of road racing all across the region.
Yeah, I think half those tracks you listed are on the calendar for this championship as well, which Road Atlanta is another one I think that would count in that category. Spin!
No! Gilliland!
Oh, man. Not what he wanted to see, nor we wanted to see.
And Dibdall caught the right rear of that machine. You'll get a replay here.
And does the door open? Oh, no, did he just
That's a
looped
shift.
it? Yeah.
That's a shift.
Gosh, that's the challenging thing about these H-pattern gearboxes, Andrew. If you make it an incorrect downshift, it'll spin the wheels up. Let's listen on board and see if we can hear it. Right there. I think he had it in the wrong gear and left the clutch out, and as soon as he did that, it was game over.
Yeah, he was already really high rev. You might be right. I thought maybe he was going down through too many gears, but how many can really go through at that point? I think you're right. He just let the clutch out at the wrong time. And, you know, earlier when he had a couple of poor runs out of the keyhole, I thought maybe he was using auto clutch, but clearly he was not, as Rasputo covering a big opportunity there for Soto.
Yeah, Soto backed out of that. He had an opportunity to go to driver's left at turn 4, and he bailed out. And again, look at the gap back to Burkhardt, though. It's down a full second from where it was 2 laps ago. And do the math, it's going to get close if he takes another chunk out of it like that. So I like driver's left at turn 4 because if you can hold it, you've got a run through madness and an opportunity to take the lead away. I think driver's right's better, and he might be waiting for a better opportunity so he doesn't lend himself into the middle of a side-by-side fight that'll burn up the rest of the advantage they have to Burkhardt.
It's kind of 6 to 1/2 dozen the other, I feel like, through turn 4. You want to be left or right because you have the apex, first apex on the right side in turn 4, then you go to the left for turn 5, back to the right in turn 6. So you could really be on either side and I think do decently well. It really is a toss-up, I feel like, for sure. But it is definitely, as you mentioned, allowing Burkhardt and Forster to pop up here. And Forster, he's also a smart guy. He's not going to do anything too crazy. I know he's had some looks on Burkhardt, but I think now realizing the situation, he'll probably do better for himself if he waits, as we've got to change for the lead. I think that's a slowdown. Yeah, it was a cut course for Nicholas Rasputo through turn 1, most likely. Wow. This has been a trouble spot here tonight, hasn't it? Let's see if we can get another look from a different perspective right here. Oh, yeah, right on the beginning of the curb. You can generally cut after that, but the beginning of the curb is what will get you, and that cost him a lot of time, 1.5 seconds, in fact, and he's now battling for second, or to hang on to it at least. Yeah, Morgan's going to be there this lap, for sure. He's maybe not on his bumper this lap, but the next lap for sure he'll be there, I think. The draft is going to be a big part of that. Into turn 4 already. He's within a couple of tenths, closes in big time there on the curbing, and boy, this is a big opportunity for Morgan, and even bigger opportunity, I think, for Soto, because these guys will definitely be battling the next couple laps. Yeah, Rasputo's not going to give this up easy. He knows there's no shot to catch Soto at this point. Not 1.5 seconds with a lap to go. Well, that'll be 2 laps to go, but the battle is now for second place, and Burkhardt probably didn't want to see this so much because he would rather not fight Rasputo here. He'd rather fight him when Soto's right off the front bumper, but now he knows Rasputo's going to give some resistance, and that will probably erase any opportunity to catch the 77. Well, if that 40 car is underpowered and if Morgan's aware of it, even though he's doing some big-time work through the corners, this might be just an easier ask now for second place. He quickly got to the right side there through the carousel, couldn't do anything with it, but clearly Morgan's doing okay. That nose damage tells me engine damage, but apparently not. I mean, he's got something in that 40 car still. Yeah, if it's down on power, it might even just be aero damage, but these cars, again, they're not very aerodynamic to begin with, so it's not really going to hurt it all that much. So the NC Miata actually has a pretty shockingly terrible drag coefficient, but that's what makes it so good to draft, is Burkhardt's going to try the outside at the keyhole, and that will set up Beans for contact. Burkhardt out to the grass a little bit. Beans Forrester now going to push that 40 car through. I think take the window of opportunity. He's been working with Morgan for how long, right, in this race? I mean, 6-7 laps at this point. That was a pretty solid choice, I think. And now Rasputo going to have to settle for 4th for the moment. Let's see what he does here. Does he pop out to the right? No, he does not. So Rasputo's going to have a big launch into turn 4. He somehow gets the thing stopped. And now Forster and Rasputo spend time side by side. Big lunge and go for the crossover now. Does Rasputo not going to get there? Looks to the inside for 6. Nowhere near challenging Forster up into that apex. And that was a huge backstretch and corner for the 03 in all of the wrong ways. And they were almost 3 wide back here for now 15th place. Rich Green, Jose De La Casas, and Clatterbuck, they are 3 wide. And Todd Burris watching on from 18th place. Look at this 4-horse race for 15th place. They sort of back out, but De Las Casas on the inside of turn 4. That's an advantage to begin with, but now it's a disadvantage through turn 5 as Burris sets up maybe for something in 6. Pulls to the left side now of that car on the inside. This is going to be a fun fight. Oh, contact there. The 22 going out wide.
Yeah, Rich Green and Clatterbuck kind of came clattering together, didn't they, there for a moment, but still,
I see what you did there.
Still door to door, and Wozencroft got shuffled out of, I think, 9th, and he's going to drop to 11th as we get to the white flag.
I think that might have been a corner cut for him as well. He had to slow way down. Otherwise, he just got pushed out wide. It's up front. It's 1.6 second gap, and I think Soto is just safe enough, but he's got to keep himself honest here.
This is the battle I'm watching now for the podium spot. Burkhardt's got well clear of Forster, and now Forster's focus is all in the rearview mirror. You see the smile there, gets through the gear, takes a look at the relative up into the mirror, and it's 2.5 tenths back to Rice-Puto. I don't know if Nicholas is going to get there. You have to be within generally 2.5 tenths by the beginning of the backstretch to really have a shot.
Nick has definitely used his tires. I don't know how much Beans has used his tires. I mean, just going back to that tire temp conversation, warm racetrack here today. Track temp now sitting at 123. Tire temp, that is a big deal. I don't know that Nick gets back to him.
And Rice-Puto 4th, and then Dean Dibdahl up to 5th place with the night he had, failing to qualify, starting at the tail of the field, carving his way through a crash. A top 5 run is like a win for him tonight, and will certainly salvage some points as Rice-Puto runs a bit wide. But out front, Joshua Soto put himself in the right spot, didn't he? Stayed out on the racetrack when Rice-Puto could not, and this is going to be the first win in the bucket for Soto this season. Missed the first round at VIR, was in the conversation at Homestead, but today he is the headline. Soto wins race 2 at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series. Burkhardt, Forster, Rice-Puto, Dibdahl, the rest of your top 5, but there's battles behind him. Look at this, Andrew, to the checkers.
Piatek on the outside. Is that Gilliland on the inside? Side by side at the start-finish line. Gilliland the advantage, and that's going to be good for 9th. Piatek, I think frustration there. Alt F4s maybe.
Yeah, he's out, and that's going to shift everyone up behind him up a position.
He did it too early. I don't think he took the checkers.
No, he didn't. He's dropping down the order now. That's going to be a mistake for sure. But Gilliland grabs a 9th, his second consecutive 9th tonight, so despite the spin, 2 top 10s, those are in points. Not a bad place to be, I'd say.
I think that Piatek situation at the line proves once again, cooler heads will always prevail. If he had waited about 20 more feet, I don't think he would have given up his 10th place spot.
Yeah, and when we look at a season-long championship, you don't get a lot of mulligans. So that's the result, though. Soto in the CRP Racing 77 picks up his first win. I feel like he's won a race before in the series. I can't confirm that he hasn't before, but this is definitely the first of the season. We'll talk to him in a moment, but let's have a look at our race results before we go much further here, Andrew. And what a race it was. At the front, things got spicy, but we didn't have a last lap battle for the lead, and Soto takes it.
Yeah, I mean, he was given a golden opportunity, I think, for sure, at least to battle for the race win, and then Rice-Puto made a big mistake. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Thankfully, Soto was both in this case. Really, really good in races 1 and 2, and just got lucky, I'd say. I think that's fair to say. He's still good, just got lucky in race 2. The opportunity was there. He made the most of it, takes the win.
It's one of my favorite lines, rather be lucky than good, because sometimes I'm not good and I need the lucky. So for Soto, that worked out. Yeah. Beans Forster on the podium. Nice run there for Beans. Rice-Puto 4th. Didn't work out the way he was hoping. Dean Dibdahl, what a night for him. From dead last on the grid up to 5th place in race 2. Cam Eben, again, with how good he is, I know this isn't exactly the car that he is most fluent in, but 6th place, even after getting a decent start to race 2. A good climb, but not a dominant performance by any stretch. Dylan Lee, how about him in 7th place? Then Greenfield, Gilliland, and Wozencroft, the rest of your top 10.
11th through 20th on screen now. Hayden Manis, we talked a bit about him around that top 10 cutoff in both races. Decent runs, finishes 11th here. Jean Reyes, talked about him a good bit. Fairbairn, after that big move in turn 1 in this race, ends up 25 seconds down from the lead. I know it was a lot of fun to watch. I think maybe he would take that turn 1 situation back now, looking back at it, but who knows. Jose de la Casas 14th spot, not bad. Clatterbuck in the top 15. I think it's some guys that definitely, I think this whole page probably had not so great races, but then really some pain here. Dave Brown, Sebastian Kootmeyer, and so on and so forth. Kurt Schmidt, though, I think he finished this race, which is better than race 1.
Yeah, got to finish in on the board. And then here's a look at the drivers that really had bad days. Piatek right at the end there does not make it to the checker. Spolman and Ortiz, I think, were out early with collisions at that turn 1 crash. So that was the drama there. But let's chat with a couple of our finishers here. First of which is going to be Beans Forster. Beans, welcome. What a battle at the end there. That was fun to watch, man. We always enjoy watching you fight up there. Always enjoy having the pedal cam to look at as well. Take us through that battle you had, but it was really pushing around Morgan Burkhardt, following him up to the front to see how far you could climb.
Yeah, Morgan had some front end damage, so his top end was pretty down. But he had the corner exit speed, so it would just made more sense for me to stick behind him and just bump him when we started hitting like 100 miles an hour, and the draft really kind of hit him in the face. So I was able to kind of push him, and we were able to catch up once Nick and Josh started fighting.
Well, Beans, it was a big second race for you, though. Opportunities, they don't come like that very often. Did you feel like you could have got Morgan at some point, been ahead, able to defend and take that spot away later?
Yeah, his straight line speed was very, very prevalent. I could have got around him at the end of the straight going into China Beach, but I chose the smarter play, which is to stick by him because he had that corner exit speed, and that's where I lacked. And so we were faster together that way than it would be if it was the other way around. It's like my goal was third, coming into as we kind of rolled off the crazy start of this race, and I jumped 10 spots on like the first 3 corners, rolling off that first lap in 6th. Like my goal was third. That I set it realistically for myself, seeing how far Nick and Josh were ahead. So yeah, I'm happy with my performance. I think I blew it out of the water from the incidents that I was involved in.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Beans. Appreciate your time, man. Congratulations on a podium this evening after a big fight forward. And look forward to the week off, and we'll see you at Sebring on May 28th. Good luck to you.
Yes, we will. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Let's chat with Morgan Burkhardt, who comes home in second place in the second race, but it was a first place in race 1, Morgan, so kind of righting the ship. All things are back on schedule, I would say. You get one at Homestead, you get one here, but race 2 kind of a tough start, huh?
Yeah, no, race 2 was definitely a skill test. Jeremy had such a good run going up the inside. I think everybody in the field would have done the same thing he did. And went up the inside, got the curb, and got a little loose, but at that point didn't really have anywhere to go. And pretty much from that point on, it was damage limitation. I got the car back, didn't spin, didn't get clobbered or anything. Had a bunch of front end damage, so I was about 3 or 4 miles an hour down pretty much every straight. So it was definitely difficult to do anything after that. But holes kept opening up, and I kind of just put my nose in and just drove. And I got really lucky towards the end of the race that Nick got a slowdown, and I was able to get up to him. But unfortunately, not quite enough laps to get up to Josh Soto. But yeah, I'm happy to walk away with a second after being involved in that kind of an incident at the first lap.
And Morgan, I've heard that you feel like you can't separate anymore yourself from the rest of the field, but I'd say in race 1, you started to do that a little bit. You almost got to that 1 second or so delta. Is that more encouraging now that maybe you feel like you can get that leg back up on these guys and try to separate yourself?
I think that's just because of the way that this track is. There's 2 really long straights, and then the other half of the track is all twiddly rhythm section. So if you can nail the twiddly rhythm section every single time, it's a lot easier to break away. But I tried so hard in the first 3 or 4 laps of the first race to break away, and I got to 8/10, and I kind of stood there, and then I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to break away. I'm going to be able to just hold it here and not really do anything more. So I kind of backed it up a little bit, tried to save some of my tire because I knew that the closer Nick got, the harder he's going to push to get up to me. So I could kind of reel him in every lap just a little bit and make sure that he's pushing harder than I am and save a little bit of front tire. And that's what ended up helping me towards the end of the race. I still had something to fight with, where I don't think Nick or Josh quite had as much as I did. And it was just like, I got to make the decision. Do I want to keep trying to break away or do I start saving? So I think it ended up working out okay. But like I said, this track is probably one of the only ones where it's possible to break away. That's like an inkling, but it's like I said, that's just because the way that the track is. There's a whole lot of technicalities.
The twiddly bits. I like that word.
I was gonna say I like that too. That was good. Twiddly bits. I like
that's
that
fun.
Yeah. Morgan, thanks so much for your time as always, and we look forward to seeing you again after this off week. We'll see you in Central Florida at Sebring for round 4.
Can't wait. See you guys then.
See ya. And Nicholas Rice-Puto finished this race in 4th, but he had a second to his name in race 1, Nicholas. Obviously, race 2 didn't go your way. That pesky turn 1 cut course, man, that's an evil one. But race 1 rather, almost had the win. Take us through your evening.
Yeah, race 1 was good. I didn't have enough to get to the back of Morgan. I had an opportunity there, and I should have went for it, but I didn't. It's all right. But race 2, nightmare. I thought I threw away some easy points. I thought I had that one in the bag. You there?
Well,
oh.
Yeah, sorry. See, I'm not totally used to the question format here, and Kyle just threw me into it. But
yeah.
Nicholas, big race for sure. I think in 1 and 2, I know the result in race 2 isn't quite what you wanted out of the day. So how do you right the ship? I guess these next races coming up, Sebring next up. How do you go out there and capitalize?
How tight it was last season at the end with points. You just can't afford to throw away points like that. So I can't make any silly mistakes like that going forward.
Yep, and tough way to end race 2, but still a top 5, so decent points on the board, Nicholas. So congratulations on that, at least. And I know there were some points on there, but we'll look forward to seeing you get back up in the mix there at Sebring in a couple weeks.
All right, see you guys. Have a good one.
We'll see you. And Joshua Soto, I think, is the last one we're going to chat with here this evening. But, man, I said at the end that you were in the conversation in race 1, but in race 2 you were the headline. Penalty cut course for Nicholas Rice-Puto, and you were able to just drive away, but you had the pace to do it. Take us through your night.
Oh, yeah. The first race, it was really just try to retake the lead and just keep up with the pack, because Morgan has an extremely fast pace, and if you mess up, it's really hard to catch back up. So I was just trying to take my time in the first race. In the second race, that giant moment happened in turn 1. I was lucky enough to dodge a couple cars, and then at the end of the race, we just ended up somehow getting P1.
Well, you did something impressive here, Joshua, and that's not just getting a Miata to do a burnout on the front stretch after your race win. You got your race win, and how encouraging is that for the rest of the season?
Oh, it's very encouraging. I'm starting to get a lot more used to these type of cars, and it's been really easy to find pace a lot faster. So, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season and what it has to bring.
Josh Soto wins race 2 here in the Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series. Josh, congratulations. And, your club in iRacing is Florida. That means that it's a hometown race for you in a couple weeks' time. We'll see you at Sebring.
Yeah, see you there. Thank you.
All right, Andrew. And with that, man, what a night it was. First time that this series has ever been to Mid-Ohio. It did not disappoint. Looked a little different than some of the races we've had in the past. Broke up into some larger groups here and there. We saw some incidents and some passes and some cut course penalties. But, man, this was a fun evening, and glad to have you with me, Andrew. But your final thoughts on Mid-Ohio before we head off to Sebring short in a couple of weeks.
We had some ups and downs, and not just in the elevation. I think definitely it was a big day, a very, very fun day of racing. Some drivers obviously very frustrated. Piatek, I think, takes the cake with the Alta F4. It was so unfortunately right before the start-finish line. But definitely, I think a very encouraging day for some other drivers that, I mean, Soto breaks through for a win. I think Rice Sputo, not so happy with the race, but I think showed a lot of great speed. I think Dibdal, has to be encouraged with the fact that he didn't get a qualifying lap in, still got a top 5 in race 2. I know it's because of circumstance getting through all of those crashing cars in turn 1, but definitely an encouraging day for some.
Yeah, encouraging day for many, and of course, with the order mixed up, it's going to make the points a bit more interesting heading into Sebring and beyond. But of course, we will not be live next week. It is a rare week off here for the Full Send Sim Series. We're back at Sebring, then Road Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Daytona, Homestead, Road America, and Sebring again to finish off the season. And again, we'll be with you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Big thanks again to Full Send Sims for putting on this show. Of course, 3P Logistics, Final Turn Motorsports, and Wine Country Motorsports as well for making this series tick. We want to thank you all for joining and watching, and we'll see you in sunny Central Florida at Sebring International Raceway in 2 weeks' time. Thanks for watching, everybody.